With the departure of Pappy Waldorf, another important chapter in Cal football history came to a close. Not since Andy Smith had any one coach had a more powerful impact on the tradition of California football than Lynn Waldorf. He would be sorely missed on the Berkeley campus in the years to come, but the big game would go on, because win, lose, or draw, it was still the big game.
1960 would prove to be an easier year for the Golden Bears. A winless Stanford team couldn't stop a solid California ground game featuring the likes of Steve Bates, Jerry Scattini, and George Pirovich. Cal soundly defeated the Indians 21-10 to once again retain the axe for a third straight year. Little did Cal fans know how long they would have to savor that 1960 victory. Beginning in 1961, Stanford was about to set a big game record for most consecutive wins that would last 6 long years. Craig Morton burst upon the University of California football scene in 1962 and became the most prolific quarterback in Cal history. His big game debut gave a good indication of what was to come for the future All-American. He continued his passing prowess in the 1963 and 64 big games, highlighted by a 62-yard aerial bomb to running back Tom Blanchfield. Blanchfield gave the Cal partisans another big game thrill when he returned a punt 69 yards for a touchdown in the 1963 loss to Stanford. While Stanford continued its big game winning streak, Cal rooters could take some solace in the fact that in 1963, the Indians named former Cal player and Waldorf assistant coach John Ralston to head their football program. The only question plaguing Bear fans was how an old blue could ever learn to wear red.
In fact, Adrian Cragen, who's one of the outstanding professors here at the University of California, made this statement when I took the job as the football coach at Stanford. He said, "You tell that doggone Ralston that he'll be a Cal alum a heck of a lot longer and he'll be a Stanford coach."
Some more cynical Cal fans were wondering if the Axe would ever return to Berkeley. But Coach Ray Wilsey's 1967 Bears would finally be the ones to put an end to Stanford's winning streak and regain the Axe after a very long dry spell. An offense featuring sophomore quarterback Randy Humphreys and 6'7" receiver Wayne Stewart combined with a good running attack to give the favored Indians more than they could handle. The second half belonged completely to California. Their defense was magnificent, never allowing the Indians inside the Cal 40-yard line. Then the Humphreys to Stewart combination took over, and the Bears had finally brought the Axe back to Berkeley with a 26-3 big game upset win.
Another big game, another classic gridiron matchup. But as exciting and unpredictable as each game might be, this storybook rivalry has become more than just a Saturday afternoon athletic contest. Through the years, the big game has taken on a life of its own. It's become a happening, a week-long celebration steeped in traditions that have grown and prospered over the decades. From generation to generation, the legacy of the big game spirit lives on in the hearts and minds of those fortunate enough to have been a part of this fabled event.
It's something unique. It's a tradition. It's a long-standing tradition, but it's really a very wholesome and wonderful tradition, too. I hope it never stops.
And in many ways, for many years, big game is one of the basic holidays of the year, if not the basic one.
When Big Game Week comes along, that entire week is just one that is a lot of fun, but also there's a lot of serious ribbing that goes on. There's a lot of pride at stake.
I'll never forget the big game rallies at both Stanford and Cal. The great rallies that Stanford has out in Lake Lagunita when the lake is dry and they build that big bonfire, and then of course at Cal there's the old Greek theater, and we have our big game rallies in the Greek theater, and I can visualize it today, standing up on that stage of that old Greek theater and the band playing and all the tradition of the big game and the spirit and the enthusiasm of the student body.
I think Oski's a free spirit. He's not laden down with a lot of rules and regulations. He sort of just goes with his heart, and you know, sometimes it's gotten him into trouble. He sort of acts on impulse. One time during Big Game Week again, he was at another event that is comprised of Stanford and Cal alums. He went to the event and he stole some paraphernalia. Well, I shouldn't say stole, borrowed, with the full intent of returning it. They happened to be two large silk banners on brass poles, one representing Stanford, one representing Cal, and he took them to the bonfire rally that Friday night before the big game here at the Greek Theater on campus, and just couldn't overcome the temptation to take out the Stanford banner and toss it into the bonfire. But none of what he does is malicious. It's more spur of the moment. He's sort of the naughty kid that's in all of us.
Well, I remember the big game when we were dollies, especially because the rally the night before the game, we went to San Francisco, and I remember doing the can-can on top of the bar at the top of the mark. What an exciting place, and to be doing the can-can on top of that bar for this great, great celebration.
I truly love Stanford people. I think they have a great purpose in life to exist so that the Bears can beat them in an athletic contest.
The stands are filled, the excitement is high, and when the Cal team comes out on that field, so I'm going to get choked. There's just no way to explain that.
I guess I can't imagine Stanford and Cal without the big game.